Hi, my name is Shannon Osborne, and I'm doing a presentation on a regime analysis on Brexit. Throughout this class, I've been focusing on Brexit and the EU because I think it's really important and matters for a number of reasons that I'll kind of highlight in this presentation. But to give a brief overview as to what is the issue of Brexit is United Kingdom or the UK exiting from EU. It's basically Britain exiting from, which is then Brexit. It really lacks a plan of action. So the idea was that they would create this referendum to have a vote on whether or not the Great Britain should exit from the EU, but they didn't really have a plan of action as to what would happen after that. From a reading that we did for class from Eric Brom on international regimes, he says that the study of international regimes has been an important part of the international relations for over 2 decades. In essence, the study of regimes is an effort to understand the means and conditions under which states cooperate with one another. And that cooperation with one another with the states, what's so important about Brexit. The issue of Brexit is the intersection of liberalism and state sovereignty. So the EU is considered a liberal institution. Fundamentally, Brexit asks if states and regimes have given up too much sovereignty and decision making to liberal institutions. So in that case, with Brexit, the idea is to bring it back to the state so that Great Britain can have more control. This graph on the right that I like here went over poll results from December 21st, 2018 to January 4th, 2019. And it really shows that the Brexit vote, there was a lot of misinformation and people not really fully understanding what was going on and what the issue was. So this shows that couple questions. In hindsight, do you think Britain was right or wrong to vote to leave the European Union? And majority, 48%, said they were wrong to leave. What I thought was most interesting was the third one. How well or badly do you think the government are doing negotiating Britain's exit from European Union? 73% overwhelmingly said that they don't think that they're going well with the negotiation of how to leave the EU. And then even to jump back to the second one, if they would do a referendum again today, 54% said they would actually vote to remain in the EU. That's really interesting how those kind of polls changed. Next, it goes into how did we get here? So we established what was the issue and then how did we get here? So in June of 2016, that referendum vote passed for UK to leave the EU. What was really interesting too when I was doing my research was an article by Mark Walden where he said 2 hours after the referendum polls closed, roughly midnight UK time, the Google Trends Twitter account reported a 25% increase in people searching what happens if we leave the EU. And that's what really brought me into wanting to really study Brexit and the EU and UK involvement and all that, was because of the fact that I was so amazed when I was reading the news that so many people voted for Brexit in favor of Brexit without really fully understanding what that meant or where that was coming from. And this showed that 25% increase after the vote showed that it passed as to what happens if we leave, it's as if people voted for it and then didn't really understand what would happen next. So this graph right here shows that 51.9% of people voted to leave and 48.1% voted to remain in the EU. The plan to put forth for Brexit is at a standstill currently between the Labour Party and the Tory Party, and it's delayed until October 31st, 2019, because they can't make an agreement on how exactly to establish that exit, because people didn't really think that this was actually going to pass. However, since it did, the question is there a solution? And really the answer is not right now as of today, especially because it's been delayed on the exit. But that's because there's two main parties, political parties in Great Britain that is causing the trouble of the exit. The first is the Labour Party. This is more of a left-leaning party. They want to exit by having a transition period, by maintaining a close relationship with the EU, and have fair border and immigration laws. And then the Tory Party, which is more of a right-leaning party, they want a hard exit on a specific date. They want complete separation from the EU, and they want to tighten border and immigration laws. They are more of the state-centric focus, the Tory Party is. So going into that Tory Party state-centric solution, a state-centric solution is the idea that the state is the center of the solution. In Brexit case, UK is the most important focus. The vote has already taken place, so they say that the citizens have spoken and we should remain where we are and go forward with Brexit. They are also fearful that any revote will not have the same results. An interesting poll result that I found from the engineer is, what is the best way to break the Brexit deadlock, was the question. And a majority of people said either to have a second referendum or further voting into deciding what would happen in the future, which then leads into the liberalism solution. Liberalism is founded in the belief that every individual matters, particularly when it comes to liberty and equality. These are the values and norms from a reading that we did by John Duffield, What Are International Institutions, where he discusses that influence of liberal institutionalism. So this is the idea that we should have a revote. Political parties should get together, make an exit plan, so everybody who's voting for Brexit or against Brexit could fully understand what the exit plan would look like and all those that would be involved. The idea is bringing back the vote to the people, having the people have a voice again, with all of the facts laid out in front of them. My solution between all of these is to have a compromise between liberalism and state-centric view where they would come together. The first would be to establish a workable agreement between EU and the UK for changes if they stayed. The biggest reason why Great Britain possibly would want to leave the EU is because of not having a lot of focus and benefit for Great Britain to be in there, and it costs a lot of money. So there's different ways that they could work with EU to try to renegotiate how Great Britain plays a role within the EU that might make citizens relook at it and want to stay. Another one is a workable agreement between the Labour Party and the Tory Party on exiting. So coming up with how exactly they're going to exit so that Britain citizens can fully understand that and then have a revote once all those agreements have been decided. So laying out the facts so everybody can see it, so they can see the state-centric view, the liberalism view, and have another vote on everything together. So the next question is, what will be the future? And that's where I conclude the presentation today. And my final paper that I do for the class will kind of go into what will be the future and outlining these solutions. Thanks for tuning in.